Merci. This is a video editor. Is it working?
Yeah, it was up. Go.
Okay. This still is a video editor. It is an incredibly complex piece of software that has evolved probably over decades into the things that they are today, with a super complex feature set enabling professional work. And today we are going to build one in half an hour. That's a crazy proposition. Okay, it's not going to be as complex. This is how it is going to look like. But nonetheless, there's quite a bit going on here. We have a canvas where we draw elements to. We have a timeline with layers. Also, you should be able to export a video as an MP4. And then, just because why not, we are also going to caption the videos using AI. So that's a lot of things. And obviously, I'm not going to go into detail for everything. But nonetheless, I want to explode the feature set and explain everything a bit, so that in the end, that is my hope, you do not know everything, but that you go into lunch break and say to yourself, okay, I think I know how I would approach this if I had to. All right, and let's start very simple. What we need is a canvas where we can draw things onto. And as the canvas, we'll use the web. The web is maybe the most powerful graphics platform nowadays. It is easy to draw images, text, videos, vector graphics, 3D content, and so on onto it. And so we are going to choose this as our canvas. Let's just render some markup to the DOM. In here, I do this using a React component. I render a video to the DOM, and I add on top an image. I absolutely position it. So this should work, but this will only give us an image. And in order to turn this into a video, we need to add another dimension. And that dimension is time. Because if we change an image over time, that's when a video is being created. And for this, we are going to add remotion to it. Remotion is a framework for making videos programmatically. And the primitive that you use to create these videos are ordinary React components. I started Remotion about 4 years ago, and I think one big reason that I am here today is because Antoine and Mikael, they like using Remotion, and also, for example, the graphics that you see in the hallway about the program, they are made with Remotion. And yeah, so that's why I ended up here probably. Yeah. Great animations, by the way. And this is how you would use Remotion. Here we still render a component to the web. There are some shorthands for things that you use often, like absolutely positioned divs. And instead of the regular image and video tags, we use the corresponding Remotion tags. This allows us to synchronize them with a timeline so that we can later play, pause, and seek the video. Of course, this is still a regular React component, which means we can parameterize it by passing props to it. And this works just like in regular React. Now that we have this component, we can mount it to a website using the Remotion Player component. There we pass the default props which we can also override during rendering later, the width, the height, the length, and the frame rate of the video that we want to create, as well as the component that should be rendered. And this should then look something like this once you have done it. We have a player where we have the video and an image rendered on top of it, just web content. We can seek it, we can pause it, we can play it. Okay, so I guess let's just rearrange this. All right. So this makes sense, but one problem is that in no video editor we have these default controls overlaying the canvas, right? That's a bit cumbersome. So we're going to remove this controls prop here, and we are going to implement some custom controls like this. And into this I'm not going into, but you can, if you want to, use this as a reference. On this side there are a bunch of copy-pastable snippets, like a play button, a loop button, a seek bar, etc., with which you can, once you have implemented it, it will look something like this. And now the playback controls, they don't overlay our canvas anymore. So step one is done. Now let's add some content to our canvas. I recommend that you create a system that works somewhat like this. That on your canvas you draw a bunch of items and they have some properties in common. Maybe like the position of the item as well as the dimensions. The spatial dimensions, but also the time dimensions, so when the item starts appearing and for how long. And then of course you have different types of elements like images, text, videos, and they should have all some specific properties. Like an image should have a source, and a text should have a string where you store the text. And with a TypeScript discriminated union feature, we can very handily create a type which encompasses all items, which then allows us to do something like this. Create a component that just generically renders an item. If it's an image, we return an image tag. If it's a text, we return a text. And we use regular CSS to give it the position that it has. Also, in a video editor, we often have multiple tracks. Maybe a video track or multiple video tracks, an audio track. And by having multiple tracks, we can we can render multiple items at once, and we can also define the order in which they are rendered, so which items are on top and which are at the back. So for this, we just use a regular React use state. This is how it could look like, and this is how a track could be rendered. We just map over the items and we render all of them. And to render the tracks, we also iterate over the tracks. One thing that you need to know when you design something like this is that in CSS and in the web in general, if you have multiple absolutely positioned items, the one that you render last appears on top, and the one that you render first appears at the back. I'll show you some examples in a moment. So I think the easiest way to allow the user to add some content is using drag and drop. Here is some component that we can render on top that just handles a dropped element. And in this handle drop function, we can create a local URL so that we can immediately show the item that the user has dropped. Depending on the item type, get here in the case of a video, the width, the height, and the duration, and update our state with the source and the metadata that we have just obtained. We are going to, in the end, render the video in the cloud, and I assume that this is going to be an online web editor. So we are also going to upload the asset, and for this I recommend that we upload it to an S3 bucket using a pre-signed URL. So this code you could put in your, in this case, Next.js backend, and it allows you to, with your AWS credentials, generate a pre-signed URL with some constraints. So here we define that the URL is going to expire in some time, and we predefine the location and restrict that the asset must be a certain length and a certain type. On the front end, we get this pre-signed URL, and we upload the item to S3 directly. And this looks super pretty, right? Fetch API, a few lines of code. No, well, in reality, you're not going to want to do this. You will want to use not fetch, but the XML HTTP request API, if you still remember that, because that's the only way where you can display a progress for the upload. But of course, I wouldn't want to put this ugly code in front of your eyes. So here I use the fetch API. Well, but if this has worked, then we would do something like this. Ooh, damn. One-handed. Let's do it like this. All right. So you would be able to drag in assets, even multiple of them. Oh, that's a bit big. It's going to be fixed in the next version I'm going to show you. But here we go. We have our canvas, and we have added content to it. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention, once we have uploaded the item to S3, we just replace the local URL with the remote one, and we destroy the local blob URL. All right, now how do we edit this? In general, every edit will call this change item function. You have to define it once. It is a bit verbose, but essentially here we say update this specific item in our use state store. So you would use it like this. Here we say move the item 100 pixels to the left. You would call it like this. Now, in an editor, you're able to select specific items. Let's keep it simple for now, and you're able to select at most one item at once. We do this by using a use state. And we draw a clickable div on top of our canvas that matches the dimensions of the item. It will look something like this. If it's hovered, it will show an outline, or if you have selected it, it will show an outline. And of course, you can click it, or like you can point down on it to select the item. And once you have selected this item, we stopped the event from further propagating. I will explain further down the line why we are doing this. So you can see it here. We click it, or we hover it, and an outline is being shown. Next, we need some way to allow dragging the layers, moving them around and resizing them. This is also, I guess, not so flashy. The logic is not so interesting, so I'm just going to drop you this reference. There I have given an example implementation with no dependencies that you can use anytime you want to implement such a thing. not just for your video editor, but in general in React. One thing that is a devilish detail that took me a long time to get right is in which order to render the layers. So as I've mentioned, these tracks, this would be like the image or the video itself, I render these at the back. And then only on top of it, I render the outlines. Because the outlines are the ones which are actually clickable. And on the web, if you don't have so much control, the item that will cover the other items, that's the clickable item. And you cannot say that the focus should be activated for an item that is covered by another item. And I've even made it so that the item that is currently being selected is being rendered on top, because that item is the one that can currently be moved. So this, I think, needs some visual explanation. So let's say we have multiple items here. Give it a different color. Right now I can move this item here, but it stays selected. And now when I go here, now that's the unselected item which is in the back, only now it becomes selectable. And now I can go here and move it. So because of this, I found that it made sense to order the layers in this order. Another thing which video editors have, or like in general canvases, Figma does it the same, is they handle the overflow in a specific manner. So if I move this item here outside of the canvas, obviously it should be cropped because this will not actually appear in the final video. However, it would be useful to show the outline so that we can still resize the item like this, right? And because of this, this is also a thing that is being solved by rendering the items in the right order. And so this is why I render the tracks in the back, and then I can apply this overflow hidden style to them, and then render the outlines separately. So as you have seen, we have already jumped ahead a bit to a bit more sophisticated editor. And we now have this sidebar. And by the way, how you get this timeline, this is also one of the custom controls that you can see on our website. Well, now we have implemented this sidebar here, whereas if I have selected a text component, it shows some controls for the text. LyonJS. And if I, for example, select a solid, it shows the controls for the solid. And this is implemented like this. Super simple, super logical. We get the selected item from the store. We see what type it is. And depending on that, we render an inspector. And if no item is selected, then we show like the settings for the overall video. I stole this pattern from Figma, and I figured it makes sense to bring it also into our video editor. Another devilishly detail that you probably don't think about at first is how to figure out when I can deselect something. So I click on the layer, and now I click on the empty space. It should be deselected. But then we also have so we check if a click comes, if it's outside of this item. But what if I click here? Then this item should be selected, and this one deselected. And we don't want to go into crazy use effect. thing is. And then we also have a way to click down here to select the layers. And we also have to think about this. I found the easiest way to manage this complexity is that whenever a layer should stay selected, you call on the pointer event e.stopPropagation. And then the event doesn't bubble up. And for all the other events that bubble up, they will arrive here at the most outer container, which has a pointer down event. And only if the event has bubbled up this far, then we deselect the items. All right. Well, as you can see, we have now a canvas where we can drag things around, we can add new stuff. And now, let me quickly clear all of these things, because I've made it that when you drag only in a video, it resizes the canvas to match the video. And I've recorded a little video yesterday. Let's see if we can hear the audio. Hello, Lyon, and thank you so much for coming to LyonJS 100. I'm going to edit and caption this video using my own video editor built in React. I'm going to show you all of the tricks, showing you how it's done. And then here I go down with the camera. Maybe we can crop this away right away. Okay, now let's add some captions. And of course, it wouldn't be a 2025 tech talk if we wouldn't do it with AI. Let's first extract the audio from the video. Remotion does not currently have an API for this, so we just resort to this npm package that I found. Totally does the job. And once we have a WAV file, we upload it to a backend endpoint. I'm not yet sure, I'm still experimenting, I'm not yet sure if I want to do it like this. I deployed on Vercel and it has like 4.5 megabyte upload size limit. So when I tested it today, it failed, and I had to compress the video, and also the internet is bad. Whew, but let's hope it works. And now, the moment we have all been waiting for. Finalement, nous utilisons le IA. C'est magique. Or how we would say in German, wir transkribieren nun mit Hilfe der künstlichen Intelligenz das Audio. So yeah, we just call the OpenAI API. That's how many of the apps work nowadays. And the response that we get out of it, we can transform to an array of captions using this API from Remotion. So this is just like an object which contains the text and the start and end timestamps. And if you have the captions in a format like this, we can call another Remotion API called create TikTok style captions. This API will split up the tokens into pages, because on a TikTok you see certain words at once, and then it flips over to the next set of words. So it only shows the words that are currently being spoken. And we also have a parameter here where we essentially define how long a page is. If you decrease this, then the pages will switch on every token, whereas if you increase it, there will be more words chosen at once. So this is just some post-processing on an OpenAI response, essentially. And if we have these pages, what we could do is this. We could use the Remotion sequence component. That's how you tell Remotion to only render something at a specific time and for a set amount of duration, and shift the time context of all its children. you would do it something like this. So as you can see, you have the full capabilities of programming and math and JavaScript and iterating over an array here, except for making a video. And also one little detail that you will find that you have to do is that if there are like really long words or you have a page with a lot of words, you will need to make the font size a bit smaller so that it actually fits. I think in general, if there are long words, you make them a bit smaller. If there's just a short word, you can make it a bit bigger. And for this, we can use the fit text function from Remotion Layout Utils. Here I have just implemented it in a way where we have a desired font size, but if it needs to become smaller, then we can do so. And what is standard in the short form videos today is that the currently active, currently spoken word is highlighted in a special color or an animation is added. And here's how we could achieve this. The time dimension that Remotion adds to a React component is exposed with the useCurrentFrame API. So you call a hook and you get the current time. And we just use this here to highlight the currently active word. And by the way, all of the other Remotion components are just implemented using this useCurrentFrame hook. That's the whole magic, essentially. Okay, let's see if this works. Hey, here's the API response. Let's move it all to the left. Hello, Leon, and thank you so much for coming to LyonJS. Wait, who is Leon? For this, I've also just added another inspector for the captions elements. Super simple. I mean, if you've done some web development, you probably will find a solution for this. Just render an input field for each of the tokens and allow to edit the tokens. The tokens go back into the original state and they go through the post-processing, they go through the pagination logic, through the font size determination logic. And that should work well. So let me just fix the typos here. And it has updated. All right. Something I forgot, I also wanted to add the LyonJS logo here, just to show you that we can have layers. All right. Finally, let's render the videos. Who wants to see me now clicking for 10 minutes through the AWS console? No, I think we would rather go to lunch. So I, again, just give you a reference to how you can set this up. It takes roughly 10 minutes, and you can render the videos on AWS Lambda. All you need is an S3 bucket and the Lambda, no other AWS products. And the benefit is that we can use multiple Lambda functions to render the video and make it faster, therefore. It's like a distributed rendering system. And that you can shut down the Lambda functions once you don't need them anymore. Because rendering videos requires quite some computation. So if you actually want to do it, go to this site to see how to set it up. Afterwards, we add 2 new files to the Remotion project. Here, essentially, we just tell Remotion that we have a React component which should have Yeah, I think this is the most important part. Here we calculate the metadata of the video. And while the width and the height come directly from the state that we have in our sidebar, the duration gets here automatically calculated. I've made it very primitive for now, that we just look what is the biggest timestamp, like the biggest endpoint of any layer. That would be here. That is our duration. So if we have these two files, we can reference them and deploy them as a Webpack bundle to our S3 bucket, and we can also deploy an AWS Lambda function. Next up, we can define a backend endpoint, which allows us to trigger a render on AWS Lambda. And here's another endpoint, which allows us to query the progress of our Lambda render. So we trigger the render once, and then maybe every second or so, poll the progress endpoint. And in the front end, I recommend you do something like this. You check the current progress. If it's done, show a download button. If it's in progress, show the progress. If it's idle, show a button to trigger the render. And if an error happened, yes, errors can happen in rendering the videos, because you write code and that code can crash and other things can happen. One drawback of doing it programmatically, but we need to handle it. And yeah, that should now hopefully work. The internet is, something happens. I was almost ready to go to backup, but okay. I'm so glad this worked. Because that was the whole point. Hello, Leon, and thank you so much for coming to LyonJS 100. I'm going to edit and caption this video using my own video editor built in React. I'm going to show you all of the tricks, showing you how it's done. There we go, a video editor in 30 minutes. So yeah, there's even a deployment URL where you can try it yourself. And naturally, now that we've done it, we've reached the conclusion of the talk. Thank you for inviting me and listening. You can follow me on these social media, and you can follow Remotion on these social media. If you would like the source code of this editor, I'm happy to give it to you. Just reach out to me. Tell me the code word Lion, just so I know that people come to me and ask for the code, but they have not actually listened to the talk. So if you listened to the talk, I'll give you the source code. And let me know your feedback. Let the organizers know your feedback, so they know whether they want to invite me again. Thanks a lot.